Hey all! So, fantasy. We all love it. Because we're nerds. We're proud of it. Fantasy will many times have some folks with vampire wings, angels, or just, good old bird people. Whatever you like. So today we're doing a tutorial on putting wings on people, on your basic bipeds. We're going to touch on wing anatomy in general at the top here, but the meat of this really is meant for putting wings on people. And of course, it's all kind of theoretical, it's stylistic, because we don't have a lot of people running around with wings, so we don't necessarily know how that would anatomically work. So if you're doing it a different way and you like it, or someone else does it some other way, great. The more bird people, the better. Let's look at the shortcuts and ways to rationalize a wing overall. It's not really as complicated as I think some people believe it is. Really, it's just an arm and a big old hand. And this isn't necessarily anatomically what a wing is, but the way we can draw and represent it, we're thinking of an arm. So we're going to start with a little shoulder bone. So a human shoulder is kind of like that little ball joint. For this, we're going to let it reach out a little bit, because normally when we draw wings, we want them to be a big part of the silhouette. So let it kind of pop out with that little femur type bone. That then leads into a bicep and forearm. So, and like I said, we're basically thinking of it in the same way, whereas a bicep and forearm will kind of bend down away from the shoulder and then can bend upwards. We're doing the same thing with this, just kind of inverse sometimes. So if the little shoulder bit is pointing upwards, the arm and bicep are then kind of bending downward. This then leads into a hand. Humans have a hand with phalanges and 5 digits. And instead of that, it's going to be the same type of thing where you're going to lead into this hand that then reaches, think of like a bat will have the little thumb claw, and you can even put this as a little nub for a bird wing, but we're really focusing on what would be the pointing and middle fingers going straight down. This kind of starts how the wing feathers. I like to have these two as very distinct triangular shapes shooting out, just to kind of give some silhouette and interesting shape to the wing. If it's a bat wing you're drawing, then instead of going out in these feathers, that hand carries out with all the fingers to make your clawed webbing wing. It really is basically a hand. When I draw cartoony bird wings with feathers, like in HitCam, really you just want the feathers for the first two to be distinct. If you try to draw every single feather, depending on your style, if you're a very rendered, painterly type artist, then yeah, go in. Draw all those wings, use the hand, draw feathers in between feathers, go nuts. But especially if you're animating it and you want to focus more on the stylized, cartoony shape, after the first two feathers, you can kind of just use a jagged line to kind of come back to the back or where it connects. Just enough to add some fluff, not necessarily anything crazy. Sometimes I put an extra wing feather going in the opposite direction at the base, again, just to add that volume. Now into the meat and potatoes of this. We have 2 main methods for wing location. 3 if you count literally turning the hand into a wing, which is cool, but we're looking at permanently having extra wing appendage. The 2 main ones that we go with are kind of your classic shoulder wings, what you normally think of for angels and whatnot. These create a quote-unquote masculine or strong silhouette because you're beefing up that upper body. You can literally use those wings to like shield your arm or do all sorts of things that just feel very strong. And for that figure, we basically slap a second shoulder right there on the under the shoulder blade. So that way you don't want it right on the current existing shoulder. That gets a little messy. It feels cramped. Again, we don't have to be super scientific here, but to me that just doesn't feel as utilitarian as an extra limb should be, I guess is the best way to put it. If the arm shoulder is kind of coming up over the shoulder blade, then let that wing shoot out from under it. So it's kind of contrasting and complementing the arm movements. When you're posing with the shoulder ones, I recommend, like I said, focusing on letting it complement the arms a little bit. When the arms are moving, it depends on the character. There's lots of nuances, but I think in general you want to let the wings feel as alive as the rest of the body. Let them fold in if they're trying to run through an alley maybe, but if they're fighting or running or playing basketball or baseball, think about the wings, like I said, either following the arms Or what's even more dramatic, moving contrary to the arms. So it's like if the arm is making a line of action, let the wing continue that and flare out. And, let it be pretty and majestic as fuck. The other method we have for our good old bird people is attaching the wings to the hips, around the bum, if you will. Again, this isn't about actual science or anything, but think about your hip bones, and then you go ahead and feel your hip bones, your pelvis, whatever's there, and look at diagrams. Again, we're not being super scientifically accurate, but look at diagrams. Look at how you draw and represent the hips in a 3D shape already. There's kind of your legs go into this hip cavity. And again, we don't want the wings just to be attached right to the legs because it kind of gets it cluttered. You want it below the rib cage, but just above the bum. And let it kind of come out from that same or similar cavity as the hips lead into the butt, and butt leads into wings, kind of. And again, let it kind of follow the line of the leg. If the leg is coming up into the body, it arcs right back into the wing, and that lets it kind of feel like it's resting comfortably on the body. And as far as the anatomy of the wing itself, it's the same. But remember that it's connecting into the body and the tissue. These wings, if you want them to feel tangible, they're not just floating on the person. If you're making like a mecha character with like floating jetpack wings, then yes, let it be ridiculous and mechanical and crazy. But if you want them to organically fit in there, you have to think about these things a little bit. It's also good to look at simplifying these wings, especially if you're, again, trying to animate, board out, do a comic. You need to work in your rough shapes. You don't want to draw a full person, then try to get wings on there. You want to be able to sketch them in there easily and naturally and feel it out without dedicating the entire time to drawing an entire wing before you realize, ooh, I've made a tangent or it feels weird, whatever. So let's look at these kind of degrees of simplification that we did. First off, building up all these triangles here. You have the shoulder that reaches out into the bicep and forearm, comes out, hands, and here are all those triangles that I'm talking about that it kind of makes. You can simplify that down into many different stages. One step simpler is basically triangle comes out of shoulder blade, then an inverse triangle kind of goes into that, which makes the wing. Take it a step further. You can literally just make two triangles, just coming out of shoulder blade and then wide triangle for the wing, or just one triangle into that shoulder blade. It's all about that connection point though. And as you can see, you can make the wing kind of go over or under the shoulder blade. It all just kind of depends on what you're doing. Just like the shoulder is a ball and socket joint that can move up or down, a wing would theoretically be able to do the same thing. I think that as long as your wing is, like I said, contrasting or adding or emphasizing what the rest of the body is doing, or vice versa, if you want the rest of the body to emphasize whatever the wings are doing, either of those are valid. But yeah, just make sure that it's all one pose. If you want to have the arm go down and then have the wing kind of perk up, feel your shoulder, feel that range of motion, and imagine another appendage doing kind of the opposite there. So whatever you're trying to do, if you want them to feel beefier and scarier, let that wing kind of arc upwards. If you want them to feel maybe timid or tired or depressed, let it loop down. Hopefully this all made sense. It's a little weird. Like I said, it's all hypothetical, theoretical, some other ethical, but this is kind of what we've come to, the conclusion that we've come to from drawing lots of bird people and animating bird fight scenes and everything with our HitCam series. So hopefully we can give some of that knowledge back. And speaking of giving knowledge back, we're going to make sure that these reference images, both the PNG and the PSD with all the layers, so you can kind of take away some of my decorative bits and actually scale something up, play with it, maybe draw over some of it, and share it with your friends. Please do. All we ask is that you send them back to this YouTube channel and be like, hey, these crazy misfits showed me how to draw some cool wings. Because yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more. I want to do more animation tutorials again. There will be more fan animatics. Ace is coming up with some comic ideas. And we are working on episode 2 of HitCam. It will be a while before it's done because animation, but we're making it, and it'll be awesome. So, till next time, stay safe, stay weird, stay flying, and keep drawing. Bye.